everybody? Hi. Oh, okay. Has everybody eaten? Oh. That's the spirit. No, come on, more enthusiastic. Has everybody eaten?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's good. You know, because I ordered the food. Was it good?
Yes.
What? Yeah, sorry for the reception. Okay, welcome to Tech in Asia Founders Meetup. We are kicking off another awesome year of Founders Meetups. By the way, we do this every month, if you don't know. So now you know. So every month we have our Founders Meetup that we craft topics that surrounds founders' pain points. So this topic here today, of course, marketing outlook. I suppose that's why most of you are here. How many of you guys are founders? Oh, okay. That's like 2. No, not kidding. And how many of you guys are marketers? Oh, it's almost like the same ratio. Goodness. Okay. How many of you guys are investors? Alright, you know who to look for, guys. So thank you guys again for joining in. We have an awesome panel lined up for you. But before we begin, I'd like to actually just run through a couple of stuff with you guys. First up, Tech in Asia Singapore 2017 is coming. Yay! Again, enthusiasm, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah! Alright, so it's May 17 and 18. For those of you who are here, you'll be receiving a post-event email with an awesome discount code that the public does not get. So thank you guys for joining us for this one, and do wait up for that email. Moving on, we have, if you're on this part of the interwebs, we have a community Facebook group. Now, awesome stuff goes on there with awesome discussions and the latest news on trends and stuff like that. And we have a lot of, a good mix of people actually. How many people here are from the community Facebook group? Okay, yeah, that's okay. So feel free to join in. We will, of course, this is a curated group, but feel free to join in and participate in the awesome discussions over there. And of course, the latest news from Tech in Asia and whatnot as well. We also have, of course, online segments. So upcoming online segments, founders, I think you might want to take note of this. So if you have friends that might want to pitch in to investors, this is one to do. We have one coming up this Thursday, and then next week on the 24th. So online pitches let you pitch to investors in the comment section of a post. Now the investors are there to help you hone your pitches. And at the end of the session, if they feel, hey, that's quite an awesome startup, Tech in Asia will do the link up between the investor and the startup. So this is our way of giving back and helping founders out. Alongside that, we have next month's Founders Meetup. So save the date. Invites for this one will be open really, really soon. This is 8th February. We have Design Think for Startups. So again, like I said, topics are all crafted around founders' pain points, and yeah, that's that. So hang tight for that one. Invite coming soon. We also have this is what we call the city chapters. So this is something that we'd like to actually share with you guys today. Tech in Asia is actually expanding our community initiatives to different cities around the region. So we're going to start with Hong Kong and Kuala Lumpur. Namely, we're going to do speed dating, office hours, and founders meetups. So speed dating being startups being able to pitch to investors in rapid succession. And office hours, we're going to bring out some mentors, and then we're going to give them one-to-one time with startups. And finally, founders meetup, just like this one. Hang tight, more news on this will be coming soon. So if you have friends that are in Hong Kong or Kuala Lumpur, do tell them first. And we'll be hitting more cities in Q2. And yeah, so now I'd like to pass on the time to our venue partners, Deloitte. I have Jason from Deloitte Southeast Asia to tell you guys more about what they're doing. Yeah!
Okay, thank you, Daniel. Hi everyone, welcome to Deloitte Singapore. I'm Jason from the Deloitte C Innovation team. I'm very happy to co-host this event tonight with Tech in Asia. And even happier to see many familiar faces in the audience. Okay, so just to give a very quick introduction, because I was given 2 minutes, 3 minutes, okay. Okay, just a quick introduction about Deloitte Innovation and what we do. So the Deloitte Innovation team, we aim to drive innovation within Deloitte, our client firms, as well as within the startup ecosystem. So our innovation team basically covers the entire Southeast Asia portfolio, although we sit just right above in this Singapore office. So maybe just to give an idea on what we normally do. So some of my teammates actually run innovation workshops, for example, design thinking, lean methodologies within Deloitte, our client firms, And we are also increasingly looking at startups, solutions and services to see how we can incorporate into our internal POCs or idea test beds. For example, we are working with a blockchain startup at the moment to power some of the smart contract projects within the firm. And if this works out, we might implement this firm-wide. So these are some of the examples that how we are looking at innovation and new technologies. A little bit on my role at the innovation team itself. My role includes a lot of startup outreach, forging partnerships with startups, VCs, accelerators, and stakeholders within a big ecosystem. And basically just getting involved in the startup ecosystem, seeing how we can support, help, and serve the startups in the region, be it using Deloitte's resources, the global member firms, and just trying to see how we can help startups better and the ecosystem better. So I think I've talked enough. So lastly, just thank you again, TechAsia, and the panelists today for your time. Looking forward to catch up with you all and networking after this, and have a great session. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Deloitte, by the way. And so again, a big hello to all of you guys here. I hope you guys are egging on for the panel already, as well as we are currently live streaming the event as well. So can I get a hello from everyone? Say 1, 2, 3. Hello. Okay, they can hear you, but they cannot see. So I'm just that works. And so we have up here Slido. If you don't know what this is, all you have to do is just sign into Slido on your mobile phones, and then put in the code number, which is 1533, and you can actually ask questions in which the moderator will decide which would be, cool to ask the panelists later. And alongside that, you can also vote for the questions as well. So get those questions in. And right now, let's welcome our panelists for today. Hey, let's give a big round of applause for Dan Clarke, the founder of Disruptient. Woo! And please welcome Ruoshan. She's the marketing team lead at Shopee. And finally, to round up the panelists, we have Sharon, the founder of Digital Influence Lab. Last but not least, our moderator for this session, the head of events marketing tech in Asia, Cheong, Huimin.
Hi everybody, can you guys hear me? Those at the back? Okay, good. So thank you everyone for coming down today. This is our first Founders Meetup in 2017, so it's our marketing panel and I hope you guys will enjoy it. So maybe we just do a quick round of introduction. You already know probably who you guys are, but maybe just to add on what you guys are looking forward to in 2017 or what you guys are up to this year.
Sure.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. Okay, so hi, I'm Ruoshan. I take care of marketing for Shopee Singapore. So for those of you who don't know, Shopee is a mobile-first marketplace launched in 2015. So we had a pretty good year, 2016. 2017-wise, quite a lot of the same stuff. I think we can dive a little bit deeper into that later on, but I think some interesting trends that are working to our advantage right now.
Hello, good afternoon. My name's Dan. I've worked in SEO and online marketing for about 10 years now. I'm from the UK. I lived in Germany for 5 years, working with some companies like Groupon. And then I lived in the Middle East for 3 years, working with big agencies, and then in KL for a little bit. Now I've been in Singapore for about 18 months. And I do SEO, digital marketing consultancy, and training. So I've been privileged to work with some great companies. I've also worked with TechAsia. And I've worked with the Singapore government and this kind of stuff. So yeah, quite exciting, quite fun. Nice to meet you.
Okay, so I'm Sharon, and I run a digital marketing agency, Digital Influence Lab. And as well as I organize a yearly summit on digital marketing. So it's called Digital Marketing Summit. And
When is it? Any dates?
it happens usually in the middle of the year, so June, July, May, happening in May this year. So yeah, we can chat more about that later, I guess. Yeah.
Sure, okay, thank you guys. So maybe before we move forward to look at what are the marketing trends in 2017, let us probably just take a step back first. So maybe you can tell the audience what worked out for you guys in terms of marketing in 2016 and what did not work out for you guys, or maybe what are the greatest takeaways in the marketing sphere in 2016.
Sure.
So 2016, it's kind of a continuation of things that we've been seeing happen for a while. I think in 2017, I can't remember exactly, I think in 2016, Google started to see more searches from mobile than from desktop, which is something we've been seeing for a while, particularly in this region. You see Google really double down on focus on mobile, and that's important for a few reasons. Google came to prominence in like the late 90s and early 2000s when the internet was what you had on your computer in your house. So Google dominated the internet on the desktop. But if you're doing a SWOT analysis at Google now, what comes next would be kind of quite, as a big threat. So Google sat on its laurels and saw YouTube come up and bought out YouTube for a few $1 billion, and then saw like Facebook come along and really compete with Facebook and start losing ground there, and then WhatsApp, and it's struggling to kind of buy up companies, and a lot of these it's WhatsApp and Instagram and Facebook are primarily mobile now, you could say, right? So Google's worried about losing its kind of footing in mobile. Equally, when Siri came out on the iPhone, that was a bit of a kind of wake-up call for Google, because now you don't have to go on your phone to Google and type in whatever. You can say, Siri, find me a sushi restaurant, right? And so the writing's on the wall that mobiles are going to go. I don't remember from the top of my head, but there's a number like a few 100 million people in Southeast Asia use the internet for the first time every month or every week, right? So more and more of Asia, or developing Asia, is coming online, and they're coming online on a mobile phone. So for them, it's all about mobile. And they're coming online in places like rural Indonesia or rural Philippines, where the infrastructure of internet is quite weak. So they're using slower internet connections, and this kind of stuff. So for a lot of people, they're experiencing the internet for the first time on a mobile phone, on a weak connection. And Google wants to, everybody wants to capture them. That's why Facebook has its internet.org program to try and give free internet to these people. It's partly magnanimous, but at the same time, Facebook is a company owned by shareholders, right? And so they need to show some return. Google also does a lot of stuff, Project Loon, beaming internet down, all this kind of stuff. Everyone's trying to capture what they call the next 1 billion internet users. And as I said, they're going to be mobile first. So Google is in a position where it can influence the internet in quite an outsized way. If Google said, if you put a big banner across the top of your webpage that says, I love Donald Trump, we'll rank you higher, you would see a load of websites putting a big red banner across the top of the site, right? Because everybody understands that more visibility in Google, it drives a lot of stuff. So Google has the position, the power to kind of drive the internet where it wants to go. So in 2016, we saw that continued, and it was through increasing focus on, does your website perform properly on mobile? Just yesterday, Google put out a new tool where you can check your website for mobile friendliness. So it's all about mobile friendliness, speed, and also now security. Google also saying, if you use an SSL connection versus a non-SSL connection, now Google's changing their Chrome browser to flag that if you don't use a secure connection, it's going to have a big red X in the browser, right? Because Google wants the internet to be faster, it wants it to be mobile friendly, and it wants it to be safer. So these are things that Google are rewarding by saying, if you do that, we'll rank you higher. So if you run an e-commerce company, or if you run really any company where you transact online, if you don't already have an SSL certificate, they're getting cheap and all this now, that's the thing that you should be doing. So that's what I saw through 2016. Big focus on mobile and speed and security.
All right, thank you. So, Ruoshan?
I think Dan just pretty much covered all of it, so not much for the rest of us to say, I reckon. But obviously, I think, that point is important. Obviously, this shift towards mobile, I wouldn't say that it's entirely complete, especially in perhaps more developed market here in Singapore, which I look at probably more closely. But the shift is increasing, and I think you're going to see more businesses like Shopee sort of build most of the foundation of the main platform by which you access that service on mobile. So for us, the primary platform by which most people access Shopee is our mobile app. And what that means as well is that most of the marketing channels that we're looking at are increasingly moving towards mobile as well. So I think that's quite an interesting challenge for marketers to kind of grasp, understanding some of the services available. I think it's still quite new. It almost feels like we're chasing kind of consumer behavior in a very strange way. It seems like consumers are moving faster than marketers. So I think looking forward to 2017, for me, definitely a priority is looking at how to actually capture these customers on mobile and how to actually drive them into the app, because that's actually moving someone from, say, like even web to app. It's still kind of a challenge that we're grappling with.
So what has worked for 2016, right? So I think in 2016 we worked with about 100 plus SMEs, and I think what really worked in startups. So I think what has worked well for us was like the rise of analytics, which allowed us to track a lot of things, a lot of data. And I think personalization and segmentation, so really starting to go in depth into, like, not everyone's the same. You might have a target market, but there are various segments within it. So once you start understanding the different segments and doing a little bit more personalization, we actually saw very good results. And last but not least, I think it was automation. So because you're able to track, you're able to, kind of have some automation rules. If they exceed certain kind of certain criteria, you want to block them out, for example, or you want to engage them more. So I think that going forward, 2017 will be a lot what we'll be doing as well.
Okay, thank you. So the main points that were covered, like mobile is important, targeting and segmentation, so being more customized or more personalized in your messages. Okay, so moving forward to 2017, maybe we just narrow down to something that people have been talking about for maybe the past year or so. So the in thing that people are talking about right now is like video marketing. So what do you think about video marketing? Do you think it will take off in 2017 or probably let's just start with that first. What do you think of video marketing in 2017? Will it take off, or what are your views?
I definitely do see like a huge rise in video. So in many ways, right? You can see it from many angles. People are getting a lot. I mean, there are just more tools out there to create videos more easily. I think people are getting more and more skilled in creating videos, very quickly. And I think with also the rise of like the supporting platforms, so like Facebook, Facebook Live and all this, it's really making it a lot easier to do videos. Like right now, we are like live streaming, right? So and of course with the algorithm pushing for videos to be seen a lot more often, it makes it very attractive. So I definitely see a lot of people doing that going forward, and it's something I think we can all explore with it.
Okay, so I think for Shopee, we actually do a fair bit of video marketing. And I think interestingly, we're seeing this general trend, like Sharon said, towards more personalization, towards looking more at data, and towards more automation, right? So I think the profiler of the sort of marketers that are going into this particular industry is starting to change. So instead of like the typical Mad Men creative types, you're seeing a lot more analytical people, people who come from probably more technical backgrounds, right? So on the one hand, you have this shift towards needing to look at more data and attracting more marketers who kind of come from that particular profile. But on the other hand, as people are moving more towards a medium like video, which is a lot more costly to produce, it's a lot more complex, and the typical marketer probably doesn't have the skill to do it. You might be able to slap together like a simple design or write some copy, but doing video is kind of a whole other animal altogether. So I think because this is a fairly new medium, 2016 we're seeing a lot of videos, but we're not seeing a lot of very good videos, right? And I think part of the reason is because the algorithm favors it, and it's artificially pushing up a lot of content that's not necessarily great. So I think in 2017, as more people create videos, I'm hoping that they become better, and it's going to start to attract a different type of person into the industry as well, that hopefully will complement the skill set of that analytical person who knows how to automate things.
Cool. Yeah, I agree with that. If you guys have seen the book Chaos Monkeys, it's quite a famous book in the startup scene. The guy talks more about that. It's kind of considered like a broker for people's attention, or for people's attention span, or a broker for people's eyeballs. You're trying to broker screen time, so it's more data-driven, more analytical. It's less creative, this kind of stuff. It's more spreadsheets and data models. So I agree with that. But back on the point of videos, of video marketing, you can see that Facebook's really pushing video marketing. They launched the live streaming, and when like some kid that you haven't seen in 10 years and went to school with decides to start live streaming, you get a notification on your phone, you know, the time like at 4 in the morning, because you live in Asia now. So that's a little bit annoying, right? But you can see they're really pushing the live streaming. Yesterday I was scrolling through my timeline and it said, BBC is now live. And I'm like, okay. And then it started playing the BBC live stream as like a picture-in-picture on my Facebook. I don't know if you guys have seen that, right? So they're already doing that, and they can, you know, also when you scroll on your Facebook feed, the videos will play with no sound. This kind of stuff, right? And if you play a video, the next one will play. So that Facebook can say, we play X billion videos a month, right? So they're about pushing they're doing everything they can to force up the number of videos they play. So I see that, yeah, I think I agree with the point that there's more video marketing, but the overall standard is a lot lower. And that comes to, you know, what we'll talk about later, hopefully about the kind of fake news and lower barrier to entry and stuff. From an SEO point of view, video is terrible. Completely terrible. Because Google's just a robot, like a machine that will try and see your page, and if it's just a video, Google's never going to understand the nuance of what's in the video, right? Because, you know, it's just how it is. So I think video has a place, but I think it's very limited. I think it's the en vogue kind of thing to do right now. People are pushing it quite hard. Snapchat and Instagram stories, and everyone's pushing video. But at the same time, we're going to more data-driven and data modeling and analytic and automated kind of stuff. And video really doesn't lend itself to that kind of computational input. So it's interesting to see where it goes. I don't think it will be the shooting star. I think it's just a bit of a flash in the pan. But we'll see.
So for those of us who are actually interested in like creating like a video strategy or sorts, any like SEO tips?
Yeah, for sure. If you're very video heavy, then you might want to provide the transcript of your video below that. That's something that Moz do. Moz is an SEO company, and they do every week a Whiteboard Friday. And below the video, they have the full transcript. So then Google or any other machine can interpret what that video is about, and it gives a text version that can be interpreted. So if someone's looking for a particular thing that you do in the video, Google or any of the bot can understand that okay, this video mentions this subject, so that's where you'll potentially rank for that. So yeah, giving a transcript is probably the easiest thing that you can do. How you fit that in with the style of your page may be a little bit more difficult. You might want to collapse it and read more or whatever, or put it in a tab or something like that. I'm not sure, but that would definitely be the best thing that you can do.
Alright, okay, so from Slido, I think we have quite a few questions coming in. So the most upvoted ones you can see is like for SMEs from Henry. Okay, Henry, where are you? Okay, hi Henry. Okay, so yeah, Henry asked, so for SMEs, what are the most cost-effective digital marketing channels that you would recommend? So any input?
Yeah, I think you can do quite cost-effective marketing. It depends how big you are and what kind of resources you have, but data-driven marketing. So a story I like to tell a lot is I was working for a company in Kuala Lumpur. It was an e-commerce company, and they had operations across Southeast Asia. And we wanted to get some kind of press attraction. Now, if you go to the South China Morning Post, they'll say you can run an ad with us, but it'll be, I don't know, $5,000, $10,000, something like that. Right, a bunch of money, and it'll be an ad blockers will filter it out, and etc. But around this time, the Chinese yuan devalued against the US dollar, right? And you don't think about that. You're just an online store selling sunglasses. So here's what you can do. Go in, so we have an office in Hong Kong that sold in Hong Kong and also into mainland China. So let's look at the data for the month leading up to that devaluation and the 2 weeks it's been since the devaluation, and see, are we selling more sunglasses into mainland China now, or are we selling fewer? Because the Hong Kong dollar is pegged to the US dollar, right? If we're now selling more into China, there's a story. If we're selling fewer glasses into China, there's a story. And we can put together the data and say, sales have been stable in Philippines and in Malaysia, but we've seen a 20% decrease in sales to mainland China from Hong Kong, since the devaluation. And here's all the data, and put together a full leadership piece about what that means for Hong Kong, for the Hong Kong economy, what that means for the e-commerce players in Hong Kong. If you're an e-commerce company and you sell a lot to Hong Kong, you need to maybe think about what's your strategy, pivot somewhere else or do something else, because the data that we have shows that this is a big impact, right? You package that up in a story with all your citations and everything, give that to Bloomberg, to MarketWatch, to South China Morning Post, eventually one of them will pick it up and they'll cite you as a source, right? So straight away you're positioning yourself as thought leadership, you're getting a good backlink from them probably, linking to your article. You save yourself $5,000, $10,000 on buying an ad from that website, and you just took your data, thought about it in a smart way, packaged it, and given it out. So there's that, and also the more controversial that statement is, the wider it will get circulated. So if you put out like the Chinese devaluation of yuan is a disaster, or it's the end of the Hong Kong blah blah blah, that would be quite controversial. Get a lot of airtime. So again, Donald Trump got billions of dollars of airtime and free media just by being controversial. I forget who it was, one of the big media outlets said that they would refuse all advertising from the Republican Party, and then gave him something like $3 billion worth of free ad space by being controversial, making statements, whatever, right? So, yeah.
I think that's a fairly interesting statement on Donald Trump, but I guess what I'm hearing from that is effectively that, yes, there are many channels to think about, and I think that in this sort of Google Analytics-driven world that we live in, we kind of have an obsession with measuring the impact of each individual channel, spending most of our time on that, as opposed to thinking about what it is that you're saying in the first place. Right, so Dan made a very good point. Controversy obviously invites amplification by other people talking about it. Right, so whatever it is that you do, whatever channel you do decide to push on, whatever it is, whatever strategy it is, whether it's online and whether it's offline, whether it's through begging people to sign up for things, whatever it is that you do, I think it's important to actually think about the content, because I do feel that slowly, because people can measure everything. I see a lot of marketers spend 80% of their time measuring something and only 20% of the time thinking about what it is that they should say to those people based on what they know about them.
Okay, so the question is low cost effective strategies, right? Right. So pretty common question. I think it depends, right? Like you need to know what kind of SMEs you're talking about. I mean, it really varies. You're talking about an e-commerce company versus like a services company, right? E-commerce is usually quite an impulsive buy. Right away you kind of want either they buy or they don't buy it kind of thing. Whereas for like services, they need to like trust you over time, to engage you and all that. So we are talking about different SMEs. So first I'll identify, really what SMEs we're talking about. I'll say if you're talking about like a B2B, a longer time, you might want to look into building lists, building content. But again, it goes back to defining what low cost is to you, right? Like cost effectiveness is, because to some people, time is a lot more, important than the thousands of dollars spent in ads. So I'll look into, if those are the companies that we're looking into like content, things that might require less spend, but maybe a bit more time. If you're talking about like e-commerce, I'll really focus on like how to get my for example, my ad cost lowered by looking into data, by looking into certain kind of automation tools that could be out there, right? So if there's more specifics, I guess I could answer that. Yeah,
so I think majority of us here are like still mini startups. So would your answer still be the same, let's say from a startup's point of view, like from a budding startup, because usually don't have much marketing budget to spend on. So would your answer still be the same as previously when you were answering like for SMEs?
Yeah, I would, because I guess most of the companies I work with are SMEs and startups. So I'll still really go back to looking into these things. And I guess very, very importantly is, before talking about like what low cost strategies and all, I mean, sometimes it goes back to the product and the product market fit. It's so basic, but a lot of people try to focus a lot on marketing without really looking into whether their customers like it or not, or understand it or not. right? If I'm really like a new startup, and I would spend a little bit testing if people actually understand and want something like this. And then you find that when these things are in place, the cost of marketing usually isn't that high as compared to trying to force people to understand something and want something. So, yeah.
Okay, I guess based on the startups that I've worked with in the past, I think there's one thing that's really just underestimated, which is just the power of asking people to help you. I think people do it to some extent, but I think especially in maybe in Asian culture, it's not considered too polite to maybe just ask people and bother people. But a lot of times people are just busy. So I think a lot of times when it comes to early stage marketing, when you don't necessarily have product market fit yet, when you don't have huge advertising budgets, yeah, the number of times I've just called someone up and said, hey, listen, would it be okay if I spoke at this thing to an audience of people that I maybe want to sell to? And I was actually pretty amazed by how often they would just say yes, as long as I could highlight the sort of value that I could deliver.
So good takeaway, because asking is free anyway, right? So then what do you think, like, for startups?
Yeah, I think the plan that I gave is like zero cost, right? It's just looking at your data and then having to think about it and putting a story together and then trying to pitch it to people. You can always contribute a contribution article to Tech in Asia. That's the community. You can always put something out there if you have the data, if it's a good story. If you can put it there. If there's a popular narrative that you want to kind of be controversial against, if people are saying the Singapore economy is slowing down or whatever, this kind of stuff. If you have a real estate website, you could look at house prices and you could maybe build a counterpoint to that and say, be a little bit controversial there and start some discussion. If you always toe the line, if you're always kind of, yep, this is how it is, then you fade into the background. But if you have a counter opinion, if you stand out, if you make a counterpoint, the only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about, right? So, really, I mean, hated, adored, never ignored, right? So, if you have a controversial opinion based on your data, put it out there, and then you'll find people that have a similar opinion. These people will hear of you. So yeah, my advice was like cost free. Just look at your data, build a story, and tell it. It's never been easier to get an audience, to get a platform to tell people, right? You can use social media, you can create an article, you can give it out to any of these online media portals, right? Online news websites want to take news from the community as more than ever, right? So it's never been easier to just get that opinion out there and brand it and give your thoughts. So yeah, look at your data, be controversial, and be loud.
So, okay, moving on, the next question that I have was, so I noticed, Sharon, recently you posted this article, asking some digital marketing experts, Dan is one of them, I saw in the article. Yeah, so you asked them, what are the trends to look forward to in 2017? So I think what caught my eye was Dan's answer when he said that, Facebook, not big brands, they're actually not getting the ROI that they want to from Facebook. So what do you guys think about it? Like Facebook as a marketing medium, is it losing its shine?
I'll try and do it short.
Is this the time we get to fight?
I'm fairly bearish on Facebook, which is a controversial statement, I suppose. I think Facebook has a problem with fake news, as we've seen recently. And what also caught my eye was they put out a safety alert for a Bangkok explosion that didn't exist. They got hoodwinked by fake news into putting out a safe or mall check, and I had my friends checking in, I am safe at the explosion in Bangkok, which never happened. So that even their own filters, their own stuff, can't really block fake news. People are losing kind of faith and confidence in it. Facebook lends itself a lot to bubbles, so you kind of stick around like-minded people. Again, 2016 shows Brexit and Trump. Everyone was, on their news feed seeing that there's no way that's going to happen. There's no way that's going to happen. There was a famous thing, the blue feed and the red feed. This kind of stuff. I think having a non kind of left-leaning opinion is kind of shouted out on social media, and that's alienating a lot of people. So they're kind of losing half your user base. I think Facebook is struggling. On top of that, some of the big brands said that they were rolling back their marketing spend on Facebook, and this is publicly discussed. I think Johnson & Johnson maybe, or some of the others, some of the big FMCGs were cutting back their ad spend on Facebook because they weren't seeing the ROI. The reason being, in my opinion, is because it's push marketing rather than pull marketing. You're saying these are the people in my target demographic, but you know, this guy's on the metro home. He's not in the mood right now to book a holiday or to do whatever. Whereas with Google, it's pull marketing. I'm searching for flights to Thailand, and you know, you capture my attention, my intention. So I think Facebook is going to probably have a rough year in 2017. They did a bunch of stock buybacks, and the stock price is in trouble. I think in general, Facebook is going to be facing some difficulties in 2017. But from a marketing point of view, I think it's probably been a little bit overhyped. And you can see that they're pushing videos down people's throat and trying to say, we have this many video views a month and this kind of stuff, right? You can see that they're doing that kind of stuff. When you open in the morning, it says, good morning, Dan, the weather in Singapore is 30 degrees. They're trying to get more and more into more and more areas of your life. I don't know, but yeah, I think they're not showing the ROI. I think they're struggling a little bit. Fake news is going to be a problem. And yeah, the younger generation as well are starting to leave Facebook because it's not cool anymore. People get like Snapchat and these ethical kind of startups where your data is kind of discarded. So it's going to be interesting, but I wouldn't advise startups to invest a lot of money in Facebook ads unless they can show good ROI to start with.
So Sharon, what do you think?
I feel like I was just like kind of stop Dan. So I'm complete opposite of Dan. Like I'm a big fan of Facebook, and like the companies and I mean, for ourselves, like it was multiple, maybe like 50 times ROI even. So I think a lot of issues with maybe like big brands, like the traditional FMCG brands not getting it is maybe because they're just not natively digital, right? I mean they came from a much more traditional background. And of course I know about the filter bubbles and all, but as marketers, that's actually a good thing, right? You don't really want to attract everybody sometimes. You want people who think like each other, and you want them to tell their friends. So I think it's perfect for marketers, but our own personal experience that for SMEs and startups is relatively low cost. And I think some people don't get ROIs because they don't know what to do after someone clicks on the ad. Right? They're just trying to say buy now. And like he said, people are traveling, right? They are not in the mood to buy something on the MRT. You know, they just want to browse around. So if you don't have the right funnel to get people into it and try to sell them later on, or re-engage them later, you're missing out a big pie, right? So I think if you know what to do with capturing these people, re-engaging them, or putting them into a funnel, you really can see a huge ROI.
So maybe you want to explain more a bit about the funnel, like so after Facebook, so what comes next?
Okay, so we work a lot with I'll say services companies, some software companies, also startups. Right. So the kind of thing we really like to do is to like capture them first. Bring them in, kind of like take down their leads, take down their emails as leads, and follow up from there. There are so many ways you can follow up with them, right? Emails, right? You can put that through remarketing, and like so. Usually with lead captures, we see that as a pretty good ROI if you know how to follow up from there. You email them, and I really believe that email is coming back. By the way, I think that as similar kind of opinions with more and more people getting like sick of Facebook. They are tuning back to the emails a lot, and we're starting to see like a rise in ROI through emails. So, example would be like you put people through Facebook, they click on it, they leave that context, you can follow up them. Right? We see a lot of people do things like they just want to ask you to buy right now, and you're obviously not in the mood to buy. You're scrolling on Facebook, you want to look at dogs and cats and stuff, right? So, but something catches your eye, you click on it, but you might not want to pull out your wallet to buy right now. Although as another trend is that I do see like wallets and online payment becoming a lot easier to make people pay. And right now with Facebook, like Facebook lead ads, I'm not for Facebook by the way, but I just love their products a lot because it brings a lot of ROI for us. So I mean like they have things like lead ads where people don't even have to enter their information anymore, right? So we capture it like with 2 clicks, and we're able to follow up from there. So I'm pretty bullish on Facebook.
The thing, like, so Facebook now, if you go to their accelerated mobile pages, I don't know what they're called on Facebook, but it already has your email pre-filled. I've seen this on a few websites. Your email address is already pre-filled in there, right? Do we want that? Is that all right? We want so you go to a page and it has all of your details already. They can capture that. I know in Germany they'll go mental about that, because I lived in Germany for 5 years and they don't even want you to have a like button on your page, because then Facebook can know which pages you visited, right? In the European Union, what's left of it, they're very much over the top about data protection and this kind of stuff. So Silicon Valley always pushes the envelope as far as it can, and Google, Eric Schmidt said, we go right up to the line of creepiness, but no further. I think where Silicon Valley thinks the creepiness line is, and where European governments think the creepiness line is a little bit mixed. So yes, if they avoid a whole bunch of trouble from various privacy campaigners or whatever, then yeah, I think it's very good. We'll see. We'll see. I don't think I think I would agree with you very much on it's having the right funnel. I definitely would agree on that. Funnel and retargeting and getting intent and that kind of stuff is definitely what you should be doing. But I think for a startup, that's fairly advanced stuff. Funnel optimization and retargeting is more advanced than some of the other options that will give you earlier ROI and traction. So Facebook has its place, but let's see.
Okay, so very nice to hear like two differing opinions about Facebook. Maybe we'll move on to the next question. So maybe this one is more for Ruoshan, because Shopee is in various markets, right? So what advice do you have for like startups who are planning to expand into other markets in Southeast Asia or Asia?
Okay, so I take care of Singapore primarily, but obviously I'm in contact with other people across the region. And I actually think one of the things that enabled us to grow really, really quickly was how much we allowed people working in each of these countries to localize according to local tastes, right? So like whether it's the platforms that we were using to engage them, whether it was the content that we were pushing out, and whether it was even the marketing strategy and the channels that we were looking at. So in a couple of other markets, I think you're starting to see more sort of like locally created live videos here in Singapore, but definitely nowhere close to the extent that you're seeing them in, say, like places like Taiwan or even Thailand. Right, so in those cases, it probably makes sense for those teams to invest a little bit more in those channels compared to what I'm currently doing. So I think that allowing sort of marketers to be marketers and read what's happening on the ground is really key. And a lot of times, I think a lot of people operate regional companies from here in Singapore, and they sort of take what they've learned in Singapore and try to kind of jam it down the throats of whatever's happening in those markets, and that's not necessarily the right thing.
So localization is the most important thing to look forward to. Okay, so maybe the next question, what do you guys actually think of like chatbots? Do you think chatbots are in for 2017?
No. Hands up who bought something on the internet last year? Like everybody. Hands up who bought something on a website they found from Google? Probably a lot of you. Hands up if anybody even knows somebody that bought something from a chatbot last year. Right? I think chatbots are definitely a flash in the pan. I think they're a cool thing. Facebook kind of made them, and then everyone jumped on them. But no one, it's like, marketers spent a lot of time thinking if they could make a chatbot, and zero time thinking if they should make a chatbot. TechCrunch messaged me the other day on Facebook, do you want to sign up to our news alerts from this chatbot and this kind of stuff? But they're garbage. I mean, like, they are the internet equivalent of those automated phone lines where you phone up and say, press 1 for this, press 2 for that, right? They're not good, they're a step back. Right? When that was invented, that wasn't a step forward. That was a frustrating step back for a lot of people. You have to go through this game and keep hammering zero till you speak to a person, right? That's what it'll be. It'll be automation that's not quite ready yet, that just means a bunch of customer service people get cold. And then getting an actual response to something you want to do will be difficult and troublesome and just infuriating. In the UK, They're 10 years ago, a bunch of call centers were outsourced to India and the Philippines. Now, if you see banks online, they lead with, we have UK call centers, right? It's a thing, it's a premium. I don't think the chatbots are going to be a good thing. I think they're a bad thing. I think they're lazy, and I think people are just jumping on them because they're the new thing. If you have a good example of a chatbot done really well that saves you time or that does something, then send it to me because I'm yet to see one.
Boss uncle.
Huh?
Boss uncle.
Boss uncle.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's a chatbot that gives you timing for the next bus.
Oh, boss uncle.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What? Yeah.
I mean, I think it's cute, but does it save you a huge amount of time?
It does.
But how does it save you time?
Yeah, how?
By not going too early to wait for the bus.
No, as in how is it an improvement above the existing sort of like apps where you can just search for when the next bus is coming?
Because I don't have to select and look for the bus. You can just ask the app about the bus there.
And it tells you a joke if you're waiting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're cute.
I think
I think it's like that.
So Sharon, what do you think? Do you have different views or saying like chatbots name?
I feel like later I have to expose myself as like a Facebook, like I'm sure you don't share number or something.
How many shares of Facebook do you own?
I'm actually really, I'm positive about it. I don't think it's anywhere near where it can be right now. So a couple of actually I have a friend who works in the headquarters under M. So that's a Facebook Messenger where they're trying to go with chatbots. And they're like the smartest guys that I know personally. I mean, I'm not saying that guarantees, but they kind of like, they also unveiled where they're heading to with things. And I don't think what they have released right now is anywhere near what they're trying to do. Right? So they basically know all your chats. They know what you're viewing on Facebook. They know a lot about you. And they're trying to use that to their advantage.
You definitely don't work for Facebook because you just said all that stuff. So you definitely don't work for Facebook.
I mean,
they know all this information about you.
Google is like that too,
I know,
actually, to be honest. Just that nobody really talks about Google doing all these things. But so I'm actually really positive. I don't think it's going to come in the next 1 year. Definitely not in Asia. You know, yeah. But I think in the next maybe 3 years, you're going to see they automate a lot of things. Right? I'm positive about that. Not anytime near, but probably in the future.
Okay, so next more about like building a marketing team. I guess all of you have experience, you know, like leading a team or building a team. So for those startups who are just starting out, they want to build their marketing team. How would you advise them to go about doing it? Or maybe like what qualities do you look out for when doing hiring?
Okay, so that's my team back there. Hi guys. Okay, so I think for startups, the number one thing is you have very limited resources, right? So key thing for me is always to hire people who can do things that I can't do or that I really, really suck at. So I'll give you a real life example, right? So over there is Joanne. So hi, wave, Joanne. Yeah. So Joanne joined the team a couple of months ago. And one of the reasons she did that is because she's much more experienced in organizing offline events compared to like my background, which is a little bit more digital. So it was really important for me to have someone on board who could just like kind of fill the gaps, especially initially when it was like we just don't have that many resources to be able to hire everybody. So I think for me, in terms of building up a team, initially it was important to do those things. And then as we grow, or I guess as any business grows, I guess it's important to make sure that you're hiring the right people culturally, because as you grow, you don't really know where the business is going, right? And you don't necessarily know the skill sets that you're hiring for today is going to make sense 6 months from now, a year from now. So it's important to find people that you just get along with, will hang out with, but are also really keen to sort of learn and grow the business alongside you.
I think it's important to hire smart people, but not people that are like dedicated in one area. I personally am a terrible employee. I'm a terrible employee to be on a team, and I found that over a while. Don't hire people that are really good at like one thing and focus on that, but don't like work well in a team. So I would take like a new graduate that knows that they don't really know very much, but is very analytical and very process driven. over somebody that has like 3 years experience, but they were the top dog in their company at XYZ, and they come in with a bunch of preconceived ideas. I would definitely take someone that can nail process and has like analytical thought. So give them kind of questions that you want to see how they analyze stuff, rather than they come in and say, I was at this company and I doubled revenue and I did that, you know, blah 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 blah. I would definitely take somebody with less experience that can walk me through the steps of how they would do something. So when I worked at Groupon, one of my interview questions was, it's 3:15 p.m. What's the angle between the 2 hands of the clock? And basically walk through how you work that out. And I think that's a great way of working out, okay, is this person using their brain, or did they have a seat on a rocket ship as it was taking off and they got lucky, right? So I think along those lines.
So I hire based a little bit of both, right? So I think primarily I look at attitude, because we do a lot of digital marketing and things change every 6 months. So I don't need you to be like extremely experienced, but I think if you have the right attitude to learn and you're very resourceful, I don't want you to come asking me things that Google can tell you, right? So for me, first and foremost, and it has worked out very, very well over the years, right? Which is to hire for attitude. If this guy is willing to just go and figure out things, always willing to learn, I think it solves like 75% of the problems.
How do you hire for attitude? So any example, like in your interview questions, what are the specific questions that you ask? Yeah.
Sometimes I throw them an assignment, right? So it does tell me a lot, right? Because you're not guaranteed of anything, but you're doing something. So that's one way I do it. Others is like sometimes if I hire, maybe based on like a kind of a trial period or something, I throw them difficult tasks. Sometimes I just want to see how they react to these things, and if they have like, are they very fragile or stuff like that. Because do they learn fast and try to fix problems themselves, or do they have to ask for a process? Right? I mean, of course you have to be process driven, but do they ask me whether there's a fixed process? That means they're assuming that things are always done in a similar way. So I kind of test based on giving them tests, and yes, you kind of can tell after throwing them these hard balls.
Okay, so let's move on to Slido again. So the second question by Silva, how do you promote growth in a region where there is a lack of government, media, and cultural support? That's quite an interesting question.
So I don't know who Sofa is, but I guess you're Singaporean. Where are you, Sofa? Where are you from?
Singapore.
Correct. Singapore is amazing. Singapore gives you all the support you need. It gives you, a superly supportive government. It gives you grants. It gives you handouts. It gives you free office space. It gives you sandboxing. It gives you government entities that are on board. It gives you large companies that are on board and switched on. Right? Singapore is the exception. Right? Most countries aren't like that. So if you are used to that in Singapore, then the rest of the world is going to be hard for you. But I don't know. Suck it up, son. That's the point. Singapore is the exception. The other countries are how it should be. You need to go in there assuming that you're not going to get that support. That's how it is. So build it. If you're going into a lot of these other Southeast Asian countries, the government support isn't there, but also the regulation isn't there. So you can just do stuff, right? Look what Uber did. Uber goes into these countries and it doesn't have the support, but it doesn't have the regulation. So it doesn't ask for permission, it just asks for forgiveness. It does stuff, gets in trouble, says sorry, and moves on, right? So treat it that way. Treat it as though Singapore is the exception, and it's a very great place. That's why I started my company here. Don't get me wrong. But it's the exception.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so, I mean, the strategy that I advise startups with is to leverage everything you have here already to grow there, right? So, I mean, you have the perfect situation right now. I mean, you don't have to depend on them, but it's totally true. If you always depend on like this grants and support, it's probably not going to work out in the long run, I think. right? Try to fight them like without this support, and I think it gets everyone more competitive and gets better. I think so. Yeah, how do you promote growth? Right? Yeah, so that's probably my answer. Is there something you want to say?
Okay, so someone by the name of Anonymous asked, please share with us cool growth hack strategies for 2017. Any growth hacking strategies that you guys like to share or add on from your digital marketing tips that you shared with the audience just now?
So to answer the question, is the Groupon question 7.5 degrees? Yes, it is. Yeah, you have to show you're working out. That's the point. I think just by answering that, you haven't understood what I said. It's not just about the answer; it's about the steps that you get. Anyway, growth hacks for 2017. First of all, yeah, don't use the term growth hacks.
Why not?
I really hate that. Growth hacker is somebody that wants to use the word hacker to describe himself, but isn't that good at computers. So they call themselves a growth hacker, right? That's a way of someone saying, oh, I'm a growth hacker, and they want to use the word hacker. It's like people that say they're street smart. That means they're not really smart, but they want to use the word smart to describe themselves. That's my first opinion on that term. I don't like that term very much. Growth hacks. Yeah, kind of what I was saying to Silver. Ask for forgiveness more than permission, as long as you're not breaking laws. And test stuff, split test stuff. If you have any modicum of traffic, try split testing with A/B variations or whatever, and track it. And keep your eyes on kind of prominent Google news blogs or people on Twitter that are in the industry that kind of tweet out latest stuff. If you are just keeping your finger on the pulse of Google's changes, you're way ahead of a lot of competitors in this market. So keep your finger on the pulse, try stuff, get data, test it, with a small bit of traffic, and yeah, don't be afraid to try new stuff. And if it doesn't work, whatever, right? Try stuff. If it works well, then you might have to ask for forgiveness. But if it doesn't work very well, no one really cares.
So just now you mentioned about Twitter. What do you guys think about Twitter? Is it dead?
You haven't used Twitter in like 2 years.
Yeah, I have it just because I'm a marketer, so you have to have it, right? But I think it depends on the market that you're operating in, right? So I think in the case of Singapore, it doesn't seem to be a very big platform, so I'm just not on it. I tend to try and align myself with the platforms that my customers are on. It just sort of makes sense. Helps you also keep like a pulse on things as well.
It's huge in Indonesia, right?
Yeah.
Twitter's huge in Indonesia. Yeah, Twitter's huge in Indonesia. My girlfriend's Indonesian. She said it's because everybody sat in their car the whole time, and so they're just tweeting. As for the future, I think Twitter's definitely in trouble. Their stock price bounces around a lot as they go through potential acquisitions and knockbacks. Again, they're facing a lot of trouble with online harassment and how they police that, and hate speech, and it's always going to be a very fine line to tread on what's free speech and what's harassment, and I think they've not figured that out yet. Secondly, they have way less data on you than Facebook or Google does. Twitter knows where you're from and kind of what you're tweeting about, maybe, but it doesn't really know your age. It doesn't know like a whole bunch of stuff, your interests. It doesn't particularly know who your friends are really as much as Facebook does. You don't use it anywhere near as much. And it also doesn't really know your intent in the same way that Google does. So they don't have all this data, and they also have a huge problem. So I think Twitter's going to have a hard time. They closed down Vine. Vine officially closed probably today. So yeah, I think they're struggling. I don't know where they go. Twitter seems to be more popular with like the right-wing sphere, and Facebook seems to be more popular with the left-wing sphere. I guess it depends who you're marketing to, maybe.
So so I personally don't use Twitter, but I think we have done a campaign on Twitter which worked really, really well. So we thought it was going to work well on Facebook, which I like, but it flopped. And so part of the campaign we did was to reach out to influencers. It was like a global campaign, and we found that we could just easily crawl out we could easily crawl like the emails of all the handles, Twitter handles of influencers, and just send them an ad. right? It was very targeted, and it actually worked very well for us because we needed influencers more than we needed like the users at that point. So like that was a surprising kind of like results for us. And going to back to the question, right? Like 2017 growth hacks. I think so I'm learning quite a bit about like scraping right now. I think it's a fascinating world. What you can do. Also kind of like not caring about regulations at this point. I mean it's legal. I mean it's great. It's kind of great, but there's no regulations on certain scraping stuff that's available publicly, right? So that would be my kind of like thing to do in 2017 and personally, yeah.
So you mentioned you tried like Twitter and Facebook targeting. In your own opinion, do you think which channel has a more ROI in that sense?
It all depends on who you're targeting. Yeah.
Okay, and just now you mentioned about using Twitter to target influencers. What do you think about like influencer marketing in general? Yay or nay?
Yeah, so disclaimer, right? Even though my company name has the word influence, we don't actually do influencer marketing. So I don't engage bloggers or anything like that. So yeah, just FYI. What do I think about influencer marketing? I think if you're depending on your products that you're selling, I think some industries just may or may not. And I think Singapore has a bit of a bastardized like the word influencer. Right? I think in many other regions, influencers can be thought leaders, can be very important people. But in Singapore, it's always bloggers. So when you talk about influencers, like this is why I always have to kind of distance myself, because it's always about the bloggers and the 22-year-old person. But if you're talking about thought leaders and all that, definitely. I mean, I think in any industry, becoming like the authority, becoming like the trusted brand, is always a good thing. So if you know how to tap on the right influencers for the right reasons, it could be very, very powerful.
How about Dan and Ruoshan? What do you think?
So I think we use a fair number of influencers to varying degrees of success across different markets. So again, I think it depends on your target audience as well. Dan brought up an interesting point earlier about how millennials or like younger people, probably sub sort of age 22, 23, aren't really on Facebook anymore, right? And a lot of these kids, they just don't click ads. They just have just zero tradition of clicking ads. They will never click ads, right? So in these cases, how do you reach out to them? And I think influencers could be an interesting solution to that. They're definitely more savvy on a lot of the platforms that a lot of more traditional marketers aren't that comfortable with. If you look at the just number of followers that the Kardashians have, it's just absolutely unbelievable, right? And that said, in certain more developed markets, I think one of the issues now is that because we've had some success, a lot of marketers have had some success with them, they're just like pricing themselves at just absolutely ridiculous rates. Some of the rates that I get quoted in Singapore is just really out of this world. It makes me want to quit my job and become an influencer, honestly. Yeah, I think maybe it's a bit too late. I think you have to start probably age 15. But I think if done sort of right, it can be a really powerful tool. But that also requires really deep understanding of your audience and your business, right? Like making sure that you're targeting the right influencers to spread the right message, also on the right channels where your target audience is.
How about in terms of cost? Is it very costly to engage influencers to help market your product?
In Singapore, yes, 100%. And it's shocking sort of how quickly an influencer realizes their value. So you have a lot of these 16-year-old girls who just don't really know what they're doing. They like to post pretty pictures, and if you reach out to them, they'll be like, oh great, I'll give you a post for $200, right? And I think if you're quick and you're good at reading the market, you can sort of exploit those opportunities for a little while before they sign with a big agency and then start charging you $5K for a post, which they definitely do, right? So I think that's a very Singapore-specific sort of thing. And maybe it's also because celebrity culture here is not that strong. There aren't that many local Singaporean celebrities. People seem more excited about overseas celebrities. So these people get to sort of command a premium. But I think in other markets it could potentially be quite different. Yeah.
Any experience in other markets or?
Personally, no, but from just chatting with other marketers who operate in places like Thailand, they seem to get pretty good returns over there. Yeah, and I guess like another thing is maybe it's that over here the influencer marketing sort of network is fairly mature, so people understand how to sort of market themselves. Whereas over there, people are just sort of doing their own thing. They're able to be a lot more niche just because the markets are bigger. So if you're just like, I only post pictures of orange cupcakes. I mean, you can get like a substantial following in a market as big as like Indonesia, right? Whereas you do that in Singapore, you probably get like 3 people.
Yeah, so speaking of kind of growth hacks, in the US and in the UK, there's legal regulation around influencer marketing. In the UK, there is the Advertising Standards Authority, and in the US is the FCC, Federal Communications something. It says basically if you receive money for something that you're post that you're promoting, then you have to declare it. Those laws don't apply in like a bunch of countries here. I think Singapore has a 7-page advertisers guideline, which is non-legally binding. So you can get away with having it appear more organic. I'm not a big fan of influencer marketing, particularly in the West, because it very clearly says an advertisement. I think that takes away a lot of the value. When you know, okay, well, this is an ad, right? I'm very kind of, not very pro-ad. So I think a good way of doing it is what they call ego baiting, where if you find these people that you think have a decent following or whatever, you can try and ask them for their opinion on something, and then include them in a write-up that you're doing, and then ping it out, and then they'll retweet it or whatever, right? That's like a classic approach. Or if you invite them to a good thing to do is throw a blogger summit. Throw a blogger summit, an event like this where you talk about the latest fashions and trends or whatever, and maybe you can get some company to give you some free stuff for the event. Throw a blogger summit, all of the influencers will come, they'll all tweet about it, they'll all take Instagram photos, they'll all hashtag you at the whatever mycompany.com fashion summit or mycompany.com cupcake summit, right? It's cost you almost no money, and you've got all of the influencers in one room. You've got all their contact details, they're all hashtagging you, they're all messaging you, they're all in one place, right? You could run an event like that, even if you paid for like catering and a place, you could probably run it for like a few $100. And even if you found some of the premium kind of influencers and paid them to attend, they would kick it out on their Facebook, whatever they're attending, and that would encourage others to come. So that's kind of magnifying and amplifying what you do. So that would be my choice.
Okay, so we only have time for one more last question. So I'm looking at Slido, and there's this question by Anonymous. I think it's quite relevant to all of us here. So it's really directed at Sharon, actually. It's not here. So Anonymous wants to know, can you provide an example where automation was applied in marketing and the selection metrics that helps in personalization of a marketing message?
Okay, which example? Okay, so I think what we did, I think one of the ones I remember well was running like our own digital marketing summit, right? So we used tools like Infusionsoft to help us with, kind of segmenting people up front. So how should I put it? Automation. What's the question again?
Example where automation is applied in marketing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think okay, I don't know how to explain this, but think of it as like a lot of if-thens, right? So that's the way I approached it with that summit. It was pretty simple automation, but it worked very, very well. So okay, I give simple examples within the automation. So when we started capturing, we captured about like maybe 11,000 leads in the span of 4 weeks. And so what simple automation we did was, like, for example, anyone who was already a lead, we automatically take them out of the Facebook ads. So that immediately reduced our cost per lead by 30%, which was a lot at the scale we were trying to do. Right? So that was one automation. So like, for example, if they click on this but they don't get this, we automatically kind of like automate the Facebook retargeting. Or if they click on this but they sign up but they didn't buy, we had another set of things to kind of follow them. So everything was just kind of set up from the start. I practically didn't have to do much except for the technical glitches throughout the thing. So like for 4 weeks, that was like the one or two campaigns that we ran. Everything was automated because we set the kind of like the rules up front so that anybody who was already in the list, we stopped targeting them, right? Or anyone who has gone into the list but did not purchase, we have another set of like kind of follow-ups with them. So we kept trying to convince them to buy, and people do buy it. And so every time someone comes in, there is like a, if this, then that, kind of like a thought process. Is this okay as an example?
Any other questions regarding automation, marketing automation from the audience? Okay, if not, we'll just wrap it up. Thank you so much for coming down to this event. I'm sorry we couldn't address all the questions in Slido, but if you have any burning questions that you guys want to ask, you can feel free to approach our panelists in front. And see you guys at the next meetup. It's on 8th February. And also mark your calendars for Technology Singapore, May 17 and 18. Do check your emails for some special discount codes towards the end of the week. Alright, so thank you everyone.